This is what Vince had to say, and I'm reading the quote here. Hat tip to Fightful Wrestling. They do some really good wrestling write-ups. I discovered today. Uh, but Vince said, "I knew he wasn't racist. I've been with him for so many years. He wasn't racist. He said some racist things. He should pay for that, and he did. In the end, I think everyone saw the real Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea, and they felt, wait a minute, this guy doesn't act like a racist. He's not a racist. We all make mistakes. That was a big one, but he wasn't a racist." And you know, so Hogan was removed from the WWE Hall of Fame initially, and as Vince said, WWE they cut all ties with him, but he was reinstated in 2018. And according to Fightful, Vince was defending his decision when he made those comments to Harvey Levin. And the one that people kind of, the part of that quote that people kind of singled out and focused on was Vince saying he wasn't racist. He said some racist things. Now, in that same clip, Hulk said that he was racist. There was a clip uh, that, that leaked those years ago. I think it was 2015 when it leaked, but the comments were made in like 2008, 2007, 2008, something, one of those years. And, also in the clip, Hogan said that he was racist to a point. Racist to a point. That was his exact words. And, I kind of hinted at this when I talked about, his legacy uh, in the immediate aftermath of his passing. Um, you know, we're all the racism thing, right? Right? Everybody behind closed doors um, is a is racist to a point, as Hogan said. Uh, I mean, unless you're like one of the, I don't know. I mean, I don't. I know a couple. I guess I have a friend who's super liberal, um, and he's pretty much. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is, do even the super duper liberals do they say some racist things behind closed doors, or are they so liberal that they don't even? I mean, they've just completely, uh, that part of themselves that looks and makes observations about other races that you know may be accurate. Um, have they just completely removed that part of themselves? I don't know, but the super duper liberals are not really, they're not really normal people, right? I'm talking about normal people, right? Most normal people, it doesn't matter what race you are. When you're behind closed doors, you'll say some things that some people might call bigoted or racist or whatever it is, and I don't think that makes you a racist. What makes you a racist? I don't think the speech itself uh, makes you a racist. I think if you're what makes you a racist is if you discriminatory. If you deny someone some opportunities based on their race. If you decide, I will never socialize with such people. I'll never be around such people. I'll never live amongst such people. That would be more like racism. You know. But if you just make some observations, to me that's not racism. It's like Ron Artest said once. He said, I don't remember what they were talking about. You know how Ron Artest was back in the day. And Artest goes, he goes, well, I mean, I'm not hitting nobody, I'm not smacking nobody, I'm not kicking nobody in the back of the head, right? Something like that. And it's like, as long as you're not doing that, as long as you're not denying me employment, as long as you're not disrespecting me, as long as you're not discriminating against me in some way, uh, to me, that's not really racist. I mean, the Ku Klux Klan is racist. You know, What they did back during Jim Crow, that was racist. You know, um, Hulk Hogan. I mean, he worked with a lot of black talent in wrestling over the years. I do remember when someone said, I don't remember if it was Teddy Long who said, I think they said, I don't know if it was Hogan or Flair. I don't know. Let me not say it because I'm not sure. They said that somebody called him an N word, right? But like I said, once again, to me, speech itself is not, it cannot make one racist. Like Patrice O'Neal said, Patrice said, what the hell is hate speech? Why can't I hate you? you know, it's like as long as I'm not doing anything to you, I'm okay. I understand that if you hate somebody based on their race, that would make you racist. But I'm saying to a lesser degree of, you just make observations about different races, things that annoy you. Does that make you racist? I don't think it does. Like Hoke said, he said he's racist to a point, right? So he would, if he had the chance, he wouldn't go around lynching black people, right? He's, but he didn't want his daughter going with some, with the black guy unless he was a, super rich black guy. So, I mean, to me, that's just your personal preference. We all have preferences, right? Um, you know, I mean, I got friends who are, I went to school with a bunch of Hispanics. The whole black Hispanic thing is like, it's a thing out here in Los Angeles, and it's really, the race relations between blacks and Hispanics is dicey. Um, but I went to school with a lot of Hispanics, and they, I remember one of them saying he was a good friend of mine back then. We got along really well. And him saying that I remember him saying like he said, "I'm not racist. I just don't prefer blacks to my own kind, right?" And it's the same thing the Asian man has said. He's like, "He's not racist. I just prefer my own kind." And I think I think there's nothing wrong with that at all. You know, I think that integration and you know, it was only ever blacks who were so desperate to be accepted by another race, the way that we were desperate to be accepted by whites. Our goal should have been during Jim Crow was just take your foot off our necks, leave us be, and let us, live. Um, Let us live our lives. You know, um, I think that's how that should have went instead of us, being so desperate to be able to use a white restroom or a white water fountain and be able to sit in a white restaurant and sit at the bar or whatever and eat or drink or whatever. It's like, who cares about that? We should have, once upon a time we did have our own industry. Now we don't have that anymore. The Hispanics and the Asians came into I mean, first of all, we came into, I was just listening to something yesterday. Uh, Vader was talking to Steve Austin. I'm not sure if Vader is still alive or not. I'm sorry. I've been a wrestling fan, but it's hard to keep up with some of these things. But I've been a wrestling. I mean, I was a wrestling fan from, when I was a kid, and I stopped wrestling when I was like, you know, 16 or so. Which was over 20 years ago now. But Vader was someone I obviously remember when I was a kid. I'm not sure if he's still alive or not. But it was an interview with Stone Cold, and he was talking about how he grew up in Compton, right? And also I know that the Bush family at one point, I think the dad, the old man Bush, the first Bush president, had like a furlough or something, the family was living in Compton. And that's what a lot of people don't understand is that the community, when you think of Compton and Watts and these type of places where blacks, when we migrated from the South, we came and we settled. Now we, like L.A., they call it South L.A. now. It used to be called South Central, but South Central ended up having like a negative connotation because of all the gangs and stuff like that. And but when we first got here and we moved in these neighborhoods, like Compton was if you go back before we came here, it was a white neighborhood. You know, Watts, these were white communities and they were nice communities with nice families in them. You know, and then when we moved in, that's when the white flight happened and the whites moved out. Out of these areas to different parts of Los Angeles. And but so we move in and now we take over these communities, and then but the Hispanics come shortly after that, and the Asians don't live in these communities, but they set up businesses in our communities. They set up places. They have Louisiana Fried Chicken is run by Asians. They set up laundromats, set up different places, and of course the Hispanics have all their little businesses and stuff like that. And we don't really have the same type of industry that we had during Jim Crow. And I think, and I talked about it when I talked about Sinners, the movie. That was one of my main takeaways. Is like that night, and I think that's one of the points maybe that Kukla was trying to make with the film. Is that night when before the sun went down, or before the vampires showed up, the time the blacks were having in there at that juke joint was like black utopia basically, you know, and you know we never really got to experience that as free people. I mean, as free people, yeah, but outside of after the end of Jim Crow, because as soon as Jim Crow ended, we decided we wanted to integrate with the white race, and we ended up losing our own industry, our own sense of community. Um, but what was my point? Oh yeah, the black Hispanic thing, right? So, um, the blacks and the Hispanics don't really historically haven't really mixed well. The gangs don't mix, you know. Uh, in prison, they don't mix, you know. So, I know in prison it's separated by race anyway. But basically, the relationship between the blacks and the Hispanics in this country is tedious at best. Uh, but I went to school, like I said. I mean, I've always got along with Hispanics, right? But I'm sure that none of the Hispanics that I went to school with, they wouldn't, want to see their sisters race mixing with blacks. I know it for like my, I can only say so much, man. But I know that especially a lot of older Hispanics, they don't like the race mixing thing. They don't even like it. If you saw the clip where Duno, the podcast with the social media personality, where he was talking about like even with the Hispanics don't even like it they don't even like darker skinned Hispanics. They don't like them. A lighter skinned Hispanic is considered like a higher class than a darker skinned Hispanic. So, but like I said, it's people I went to school with. They prefer their own, but I got along with them well. They got along with the other blacks well. So, and they're like, there's a lot of blacks who, you know, they're pro-Trump as far as his immigration thing is going. Before Trump was talking about it, they were basically in their own way. They were calling for it. It is what it is, man. So does that make you a very, very virulent racist? I don't know. I would say as long as you're not, like I said, actively discriminating against someone, harming someone, then whatever your preferences are and whatever your personal opinions are that you express behind closed doors, that shouldn't be held against you, I don't think. So I think Vince, he was on to something when he made those comments about Hulk. Now, the other thing I want to say about Vince is that Vince, I don't understand how WWE, because somebody phrased it as like he didn't like that he wasn't invited to to Hogan's the Hogan tribute at WWE. It's like, does Vince need an invitation to be invited to any WWE event? I know he stepped down or whatever, but it's Vince McMahon. I was watching the McMahon documentary for the first time. And the thing I didn't understand is I thought that the dad was a little bit more influential in what the WWF became, but really, where the WWF was when the dad was in charge, and where it was after Vince took control of the company after he bought him out, after he bought his dad out, is really just a night and day difference. I mean, Vince completely transformed wrestling and sports entertainment with what he did once he took over for his dad. So the idea that Vince McMahon would need an invitation to show up to any WWE event, Vince McMahon is the WWE. If not for Vince McMahon, I mean, think about. I mean, it's like I understand that. Wrestling is something like my dad watched wrestling. My dad watched, Gorgeous George, right, and Freddie Blassie and Ernie Ladd and Rocky Johnson, right. So wrestling always appealed to males, going way back, even before Vince McMahon Jr. But I mean, I think anybody can agree. I mean that the best wrestling happened once Vince McMahon took over, starting with, in the '80s. I mean, with WrestleMania and with Hulkamania. I mean, Vince McMahon oversaw all of that. The onset of it, and so for him to not be able to come to a WWE event without an invite is baffling.